Hi, everyone. I'm James McGuire, editor of eWeek, and thank you all for joining us today. Our webcast is entitled How Comcast Revolutionizes Employee Experience, the Power of AI and Unified Search. To present our talk, I'm joined by three industry experts. With me is Patricia Petit-Liang, Product Marketing Manager for Workplace at Coveo. Patricia, very good to have you on the panel.
Thanks for having us, James.
Also joining me is Jesse Murray, Senior VP and Head of Employee Experience at RightPoint. Hello to you, Jesse.
Excited to be here, James.
And rounding out our panel, we're joined by a major digital workplace leader, Kirsten Culbertson, Executive Director, Digital Technology Strategy Internal at Comcast. Hello to you, Kirsten.
Thank you, James. Great to be here.
Okay, just a bit of housekeeping before we start. We do have a few polls as part of today's webinar, and we'd love to hear from you. Please be on the lookout for the polls. Also, everyone in the audience is in listen-only mode. However, we do want to hear from you during today's presentation. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session, so please feel free to send questions along using the Q&A section on your screen. You don't need to wait until the end. You can enter your questions anytime during the presentation. Today's webinar is being recorded. We'll send you the recording of this presentation in the next 24 hours. Okay, let's go ahead and get started. Patricia, whenever you're ready.
Thank you so much, James. So, hi, everyone. Like James said, today we're going to be interviewing Kirsten Culbertson, the Executive Director of Internal Digital Strategy of Technology at Comcast, to learn about how they're revolutionizing knowledge discovery across their digital workplace. And of course, Jesse and I will also work to unpack the latest trends in employee experience and dive deep into how leading employers like Comcast use innovations like generative AI to connect employees with enterprise content from countless systems, with an exciting sneak peek and preview of Coveo's latest 2024 Employee Experience Industry Report. But before we start, Kirsten, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Sure. I've been in the internet space for about 15 years. Previous to that, I worked in external marketing communications, primarily in the internet space. And I've been at Comcast close to 8 years now. Working actually in the same team, so I've been kind of had a front row seat in all of the changes that have occurred at Comcast. So it's great to be here. Thanks.
That's so exciting. Thank you so much for joining us today. And can you tell us a bit more too about your team?
Sure. So we currently have 4 team members that support eight different employee communications channels, 80,000 employees, around 10,000 contractors, and all of those are communicated with through teams of close to 100 employee communicators.
That's a lot of people. That's so exciting. What a wonderful initiative. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. And before we proceed to interview you and learn more about all the wonderful things happening at Comcast, I think Jesse's going to be doing a really great deep dive into the state of employee experience for 2024. Jesse, take it away.
Yeah, thank you, Patricia. It's interesting in the world of kind of AI-driven everything that we're in right now. The similarity of the challenges to many of your technology-driven transformations. So I'm going to start on one of the most common challenges that we're seeing was in 2023 is persisting into 2024. It's a kind of a technical centric view of world, or technocentricity. A lot of the EX technology enablement is coming at the problem from what a technology does and not what an employee needs. And we keep seeing this persistence of, I need to find what my use case is. I need to understand what this might do. There's a recent survey, and I think we'll share the links out afterwards, where only 31% of these kind of new employee experiences were actually co-created with employees, actually leaning more into kind of leadership and technology needs and not employee needs. As a user-centered design agency, that's foreign to our kind of entire worldview. But it stood out to me, and you see every day the challenge of adoption. And so I think that's a big one that we all need to kind of push back against. Start with your people. That usually gets to problems faster. We also do see that AI is expanding whether you know or are supporting it or not. And recent report from Microsoft kind of focused on the knowledge workers, where 75% are using AI in some kind of capacity. The numbers for corporate supported or enterprise supported rollouts of AI, much, much smaller than that. So the demand is definitely there on the employee side to be using AI technologies and generative AI. But there's a gap in kind of enablement from organizations. So that's pretty persistent. I thought there was a really interesting one from Qualtrics. It's actually related to AI usage. There's always been this kind of disconnect between engagement and productivity discussions in the employee experience space. And I thought this one really presented the story very well. The key to productivity is engaged employees. Engaged employees take on more risks. They take on more chances to drive and think differently and work differently. And in this instance, you're kind of seeing a gap of 53% of employees that are engaged were working with AI, but only 30% of disengaged. So again, adoption, it's not a technology issue. That's an employee experience issue. And I think the one that is and has been the most pervasive probably across my career that remains is just the lack of clear ownership of employee experience. And I think this one, when we talk a little bit later with Kirsten, was I think you call it stakeholdering, Kirsten. Right. There's no single owner of employee experience in most organizations. And so that really requires this strong cross-functional collaboration. And those that are doing it the best have those relationships built across the organization to be able to generate the best employee experiences. So it's I'd like to say that there were some great new trends in 2024, other than the fact that AI is probably the more prevalent technology these days, but kind of a persistence of those trends of employee experience in years past.
That's true. And so moving on to the next part of our presentation, Jesse, do you want to start this poll?
So one of my favorite questions, how many applications do you use throughout the day? So as a user design agency, we are familiar with context switching and the cost of that and how painful that can be. I think Kirsten will talk about that a little bit later. For my own purposes, I did a count on the applications that I've used so far just today, and I am running at 8. I may not be the proper use case, but yeah, we have seen this actually get worse in the last couple of years. Gartner did some studies that says the amount of applications you have to use every day is kind of doubled. I think it's almost up to 12 or 13, something like that on average.
Right.
So just kind of curious what everybody else is seeing in their kind of usage throughout a day and how many different tools you have to use.
Yeah, with so many different tools too, knowledge is constantly kept in silos. I've spoken with customers that have more than 20 tools too, and still can't wrap my head around that. All right, so let's just give this poll a few more seconds. All right, let's take a look at these results. Let's see. All right, I can't see the poll results, but that's okay. I'll move on to the next part of our presentation.
I see them.
See them. Yeah.
Let's see. Like? So we have nobody has 1 to 3 apps. No surprise. Yeah. Nobody had 10 to 15. So very little over on the upper side as well. 60% 4 to 6 applications a day. 33% 7 to 10. And so we're definitely seeing that creep up. So that bears out with what we've heard in the research as well, just with our smaller sample size here today.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
We'll talk a little bit later, Kirsten, when we get into like kind of how did you address that in some of your work.
Right. So moving right along, Jesse, you presented so many things that overlap with a lot of Coveo's latest findings too from our 2024 Employee Experience Industry Report that I'm so happy to be giving a sneak preview of with all of you today. And so the latest version of our report is coming out at the end of June, and it's called Can Gen AI Empower Employees to Do More on Their Own? And so we really wanted to focus this year on really exploring the end-to-end interconnected digital employee experience journey and examine how workers really do shape the backbone of every customer interaction. And so we really wanted to explore as well how information flow will affect work quality, the overall customer experience, and how these new trends in generative AI and other AI-powered tools are really helping to reshape and alter workplace expectations. So if we take a look at the top 4 key stats from our survey of 4,000 adults across the United States and UK, we can see that about 56% of employees still struggle to find the information they need to do their work on their own, which has huge effects on their performance. And as an AI search and generative experience company, one of the things that we've been studying closely throughout the past few years is this struggle to find information and knowledge. And I really think that one of the main reasons that this persists is due to the exponential growth of data across institutions. And as we saw in the previous poll as well, the increasing amount of systems and apps we have to use every day. Another thing that we can see here as well is that 34% of employees feel burnt out due to inadequate tools, and about 30% of them as well feel less confident in the quality of their work and don't want to share information externally sometimes, which can be really difficult when you're trying to support your key stakeholders or answer customer questions. On top of this, though, we are seeing a lot of generative AI optimism, with about 52% of field support workers and 50% of sales staff wanting to use generative AI to better serve customers and prospects, similar to Jesse's findings, too. So this is likely to give faster responses and to make more informed business decisions as well in the face of urgent deadlines. And of course, finally, 36% of employees say that they always fact check a generated answer, well, about 1/3 are unsure if they've ever encountered a hallucination while using generative AI. So, as we can see here, technological literacy and change management are still crucial at this very moment in time. It's taking a lot of time in this space currently, and a lot of employees likely need a little bit more training on the risks of generative AI and other tools like this. And these insights really emphasize the importance of equipping your employees with the right tools to enhance not only their productivity, but of course to help improve the friction, to help reduce friction in their everyday interactions, and of course help them improve customer satisfaction in the process. And so this full report is going to be a comprehensive overview of how to leverage all sorts of AI tools across the employee experience, and we hope you look out for it at the end of this month. So moving right along, we have another poll. So, what are the biggest challenges you face with your current digital workplace tools? Would this be difficulty finding information, poor integration between applications, lack of relevant content, slow performance, unintuitive user interface, or other? Please let us know in the chat. Let's see, for me, probably difficulty finding information is still one of the main things for me because applications take so long to load. But yeah. All right, we'll just give a few more seconds for this.
I'm going to vote for applications that don't integrate with each other.
Yeah.
Although maybe it's not because of the technology, maybe it's because of the silos of the organization not making them be integrated. So I'm not sure if it's the technical or the organizational side that I go with there.
Right? Technology needs to learn how to play well with each other. And that's the top answer too, is poor integration between applications and then difficulty. Really great polls. Thank you all so much for joining on this. All right, now's the time for the part of this presentation I'm most excited about. It's to dive into Comcast's employee experience journey. So we're going to be exploring a real-world example of workplace excellence with one of the world's leading employers, Comcast. Comcast creates incredible technology and entertainment that connects millions of people to the moments and experiences that matter most. And they've really achieved some remarkable success by partnering with employee experience leaders at Rightpoint and leveraging Coveo's robust suite of AI models. Kirsten, can you tell us a little bit more about how you've been reimagining employee experience at Comcast?
Sure. So we recently relaunched our intranet. We've been live since July 2023. And it was a complete redesign, rethinking the entire experience for employees, going from more of like a static website into we moved over to 365, which is a much more integrated suite of tools.
That's really fascinating. And what were some of the drivers for you to dive into employee experience and transform it a bit?
So yes, some of the we had several challenges. So we started working actually with Rightpoint shortly after COVID hit. And so one of the biggest challenges there was ensuring that employees were able to connect with not only information, but the people they needed to connect with most. Everything you can imagine when an entire workforce, leaves a building and is not allowed back. We had to look to technology to kind of fill some of those gaps. So that was a critical time in our company. And we knew that even before that happened, we knew we had to move over to a different platform. I think that COVID experience kind of helped inform our decision-making process as well in terms of the platform we ended up choosing. Other challenges were the aging platform we were on. We knew we had to move off of it. Our employee communicators who were building pages and trying their best to communicate were spending sometimes over an hour just to build a page and get it published. So the efficiencies there were not where we needed them to be. We had limited reach and personalization on the old site. And we also had a lot of, as you mentioned earlier, the internet was not the home for all of the critical information, right? What was on there was source of truth information, but there were also smaller internet set up for different business units on SharePoint sites or even other platforms that people couldn't access or didn't know how to access.
Wow. Well, it sounds like you've been on a really exciting, transformative journey when it comes to Comcast's intranet, and we can see a lot of really great metrics and stats here too. Would you like to speak to them a little bit?
Sure, I'd love to. So hold on one second. So yeah, these stats are actually holding steady. It was very exciting. Right out of the door with the internet, we moved. We had Coveo on the old site. We moved Coveo over to the new SharePoint site, and I fully expected that we would see somewhat of a drop in our success rate, and we didn't. So it right out of the gate, within the first month, we were back up to an 81% success rate, which is amazing. The adoption rate on the site overall on a monthly basis is 93%, which is also much higher than any other intranets that I've managed in the past. And I think, I'm not sure what the industry numbers are there, but for us, that was extremely high and great to see. Most exciting, I think, for us was the kind of the content consumption and engagement we're seeing on the site. So because the site was built with so many more engaging features, employees have more reason to stay, right? They have even without, so we're on Viva Engage as well, and sometimes people will pull Viva Engage feeds into their pages. But even without that, there's so many features on the site now that give them a reason to stay and read information, get things done on the site. So our content sharing is up 92%. The old way of content sharing was a tedious process. It was several clicks to be able to share with anybody. That's now a one-click process. 60% increase in content consumption and engagement, which is amazing. And then 92% increase in video viewership. So the old site had over 8,000 videos on the site. People could search for them, find them as needed. We have a different approach to video on this site, so we're just integrating video from a different platform. But the viewership on videos has gone up significantly, as you can see. So very exciting numbers, yeah.
They really are, and it really is a testament to your dedication and leadership, and really the passion of your team too, to be able to design an experience like this for so many different employees as well, that really fits each of their unique contexts, is really inspiring. Jesse, were you going to say something?
Well, I was going to add, very similar to that, right? Like, Kirsten, you kind of highlight the authors were having a hard time. It was hard to get to the videos. There were too many clicks. Your view, would almost a relentless obsession on the user experience, and making sure that it was not only just personally relevant, which I think did drive a lot of that, but mapped to why somebody wanted it and how it was going to work best for them, and just making sure that you were removing friction in the user experience. I think you see that pay off here in the numbers, and I'll come afterwards on your benchmarking for industry rates, but the industry standard is definitely less than 93%.
Lower than, yeah.
Seriously, these are such great results, and they really do exceed all of the benchmarks. And with a team that cares so much too about employee experience, like, it makes sense that adoption rates and content sharing are going to be up so high. That's so exciting. Perfect. So I think, tell us more about this quote before we launch into the interview section. But tell us a bit more about your specific vision for heading into the digital workplace. I think.
Yeah, so we had started, kind of drafting a vision and strategy even before we brought Rightpoint on, but they really helped us kind of refine what we were shooting for and what that vision needed to be in the current state. So we're aware, as we've already talked about, so many, even just looking at HR systems, so many different platforms to get that employees have to go to get things done that are required of them, right? So they have no option but to figure out how to get where they need to go to get these things done. And so many of the systems are not integrated. So we were looking at not only the communication space, but also HR technology, IT intake process, facilities intake process. What can we do to streamline this experience and make it just easier for employees to, number one, find what they needed, but also get to the point where they could actually complete the task they're trying to get done. And I think we're going to talk about this later, but one example of something we improved with the new site was making it easier to just take time off. Like, I can now, with one click, I can get to the point in Kronos that I need to, ask for time off. That previous to that change, it was 6 clicks to get there, and then often you needed to kind of like, there's I think we're using a tool that kind of can give you advice in the moment if you're not sure how to complete a task. So just a lot of time savings there, and more importantly for employees, just less frustration, right? They can just get things done that they need to get done.
That's really remarkable. And I think too, like you said as well, this is a huge team effort with so much collaboration from so many different teams. So it's really inspiring to see how all of this has taken shape. All right, so we're going to be starting the interview portion of our presentation, and we'll be answering questions as well from the audience towards the end of this interview. I think we already covered a bit of the challenges that Comcast faced before partnering with Rightpoint. So, Jesse, would you like to start off with the second question on our interview list?
Well, actually, Kirsten, you and I had maybe one of the primary challenges that maybe I can kind of tee up a little bit for you. Because we were both living that together. The level of integration that you achieved in removing that friction, and the kind of breadth of those different platforms that you were working with, I would have highlighted that, maybe not early on, but definitely looking back, as a primary challenge, because there were so many different systems and their schedules and their teams to be able to make that. So maybe we'll talk about that one a little bit, on kind of the challenges in getting the systems to just even talk to each other, and what it took to be able to get all of our teams aligned.
Right. Yeah. So that process took, incredible effort, both around stakeholdering, around finding the right team to figure out which APIs were available from the different systems, um, and making sure that we were building something that was going to be dependable and make it much easier for employees. I think the work needed leading up to the point where development started on it was probably 3 times as long of a road as like actually doing the development to get it done. So that was it, and that's something to think about, as we move forward, like how I was talking to our HR technology lead recently, and I think we solved for maybe 2 or 3 kind of tasks that employees need to get done regularly or want to get done. In her mind, she's got over 1,000 potential tasks that need to be streamlined. So like when you think of all the effort, and Jesse, I don't remember how many, was it 10 weeks maybe it took to actually do the development on the APIs. I can't remember exactly how long that took just for that piece. Plus all the stakeholdering just for 2 or 3 tasks, right? So when you look at this plethora of over 1,000 additional tasks that we need to think about, because we're wasting people's time making them click, 10, 12 times to get to where they need to go. So it's a big effort, but exciting.
I agree. Once you got to actually writing like code, that was definitely the easier part than the alignment of all the different teams and what had to happen for it, for sure.
Right. The technology piece becomes the easiest part,
Right.
A lot of times.
Yeah.
You said you were working with a vision ahead of time. Ultimately, you did end up choosing a services and technology partner to work with in Rightpoint and Coveo.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe a little bit on the kind of thought process for like how to work and who to work with to share with everybody today.
Sure. So we were actually I started at Comcast in 2016, and so I came in right at the tail end of them selecting a new search vendor. So that was the point where Coveo was selected originally. However, the additions to the platform have been significant, and we've just continued to work, with Rightpoint to make sure we're getting the latest and greatest from the Coveo platform. With both Coveo and Rightpoint, in an organization of this size, an RFP process has to be kicked off, and we went through a very lengthy assessment process to get Coveo and Rightpoint in-house.
Yeah, we as on the partner, obviously we experienced that from the outside in, but just the journey to be able to bring people in, and obviously we were working with Microsoft as well on the M365 platform that you were using. I think the thing that I thought was really interesting for our side in that relationship with you was how open to partner collaboration with you it was a very collaborative experience amongst us all.
Right. And I will say too, my previous boss and I we'd known Rightpoint for many years, or known of them, and I think they ultimately were selected because of their knowledge and expertise in the digital workplace space. So there's a lot of, when we're thinking about intranets, a lot of times it's tempting to just say, well, there's a lot of web vendors out there. There's a lot of people who know design and UX and websites. The internet and digital workplace space is very different from just other web development agencies. So that was a key reason why we selected Rightpoint, and not to mention the what they offer too in terms of everything from like leadership, thought leadership, strategy, all the way through design, UX, and technology. So it was an easy choice for both of these vendors, honestly.
Thank you. Yeah, and I completely agree too. Rightpoint's employee experience strategy is really inspiring, and it's really sophisticated as well. It's a beautiful practice. I love reading your articles, Jesse. They're really really, really great reads.
Well, thank you. But we're going to focus back on Kirsten.
Yeah.
So when you were implementing kind of the Coveo AI search, I want to hone in on that a little bit as part of the new intranet workplace. Kind of what was your big aha for search? I know you had some expectations that you might have seen drop off, and it came in. Maybe talk a little bit about that growth in that, specifically around the search tool.
Search, yeah. This is actually so I've in my many years I've implemented 6 to 7 different search tools. There was one organization I worked at that would try a search tool and then get annoyed with it within a year and move on to the next and the next and the next. So I've had this experience of implementing several. Coveo search is one of my favorite stories here. Again, I've been watching the growth, over the course of 8 years, and our internet search started at a 6% success rate, which was horrifying. People, and as you can imagine, the employee NPS scores were low because of that, or I should say, people were asking for it to be improved, right? We were getting tickets asking to please improve this. We can't find anything. Right out of the gate with Coveo, and this is way back before we had the AI and machine learning platform, we hit a 30% success rate shortly after we implemented Coveo, we were so excited about that. As we continued, my team started running kind of sessions with our people who are managing the content. So helping them understand too, like the content piece of this is Coveo is amazing, and we have to clean up our content, and we have to think about how people are going to be searching for the things that we're communicating or the things that they need. So working with them to better understand kind of SEO and what role that might play, and what role content cleanup is going to play. So as we, continued those workshops, we were slowly seeing the search rate increase and increase and increase, which again is my favorite story. And even better, once we moved from the old site, we had it at maybe like 78, 80%. We moved over to the new site, and I fully expected the rate to drop, and it didn't. Just because of the implementation was done well, and we had a lot of discussions about being able to pull the existing featured results over, which we did as well. So I've been very excited to see the results there.
You highlighted something that I think oftentimes gets missed. Your content cleanliness, the content quality. I know you and I have talked around kind of like getting to generative AI and getting to trusted answers and some of the work that you're doing with that. And a lot of it comes down to trusted content.
Yeah.
And nobody likes that because that can be, not fun work. But being able to have trusted content is one of the biggest, at least in our on the right point side, one of the really biggest predictors of search success and satisfaction from employees and tool, because nothing kills adoption faster than I tried and it failed and I didn't get what I wanted.
Right.
And just maintaining that adoption and improving upon it really has shown just an investment in understanding your user needs to your content that I thought was really, really great.
Yeah, and no one likes to hear this, but as we consider like adding additional data sources to search, one of the governance items rules I'll say we have in place is like that the content has to be managed by somebody. The content has to be clean if we're going to pull it in, because we're pulling it into the internet, right? And we have to maintain the reputation of the internet as that source of truth. So again, that's a hard conversation to have sometimes, because content management doesn't happen by itself. It takes resources, it takes often budget, and so that's one of the something we're keeping a close eye on as we add additional data sources into it.
Yeah, and I think as a follow-up, are there any best practices that you can share to ensure this content and data cleanliness while maintaining high-quality content across SharePoint?
Yeah, so I just started talking with my team about kind of content lifecycle. We don't have a true content management team, but we have started talking about that a little bit and at a very high level. Like, what does it mean as we move forward? We have over 100 content editors. How can we reach out to them and help them remember to go in and check their pages, make sure information is accurate, archive information we don't need. So we're starting a program around that this year to do a better job there. And also just having, I think also when you're supporting a group of over 100 people who are editing content, you just need to have an open dialogue happening there all the time. So you can throw a little, it's not just a once and done conversation. I think it's important to keep, reminding them of what needs to be done and encouraging them to reach out when they need help.
It's true. It requires a lot of continuous improvement too, I think, and intentionality.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, and this is where you have all done such a great job, broadly in EX, when you're dealing with generative AI initiatives right now, a lot of them are stumbling over poor content management structures, right? And so I think there's back to the technocentricity, like can it do, can I get data in? Can that work? Your governance comment really jumps out to me is like, is that data good enough to be used in a trusted sense by employees? And I just wanted to kind of amplify that, like you're looking at it through the lens of, will this work for the employees, not will this work? And it's just amazing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it has to. The other thing we're looking at, we need to kind of dig into this a little bit more too, is as we're adding, so HR, there's a large HR question and answer database, right? That people, that we've just pulled into our site recently. What does that mean for the employee experience when we're integrating, like if we pull all of that data, the question and answer data, into the other kind of news and evergreen content and events? What does that look like for employees, and is that the best way to do it, to just let them all kind of show up in the same search results page? Or can we do a better job of how we're displaying that information in a way that's kind of more visually organized, but still relevant to the employee?
Yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. I think too, I'm curious to know, how do you measure the success of these employee experience initiatives? What do you track to ensure that these are working?
So so adoption is one. We're keeping a close eye at the metrics I shared earlier. How people are using the site, how they're interacting and engaging with content. I love the stat around sharing. So if people are sharing the content, that's telling me that they're finding something useful in there and they want to share with their peers. The other, what else am I missing? Oh, and like employee sentiment. Like the other thing we need to kind of do more of, and we did a lot of this during research with Rightpoint. We actually, just to touch on that research a bit, that was the most time probably we spent with employees in a really long time, talking to them about their experience, and that was an amazing part of the pre-work as well. But continuing that conversation with employees, so we opened up a Viva Engage public community, inviting people, like if they had questions, if they had issues, drop us a line right in that community so that they could come right to us instead of having to open up an IT ticket and then wait for that process to happen. So that tracking employee sentiment around the site is really important too.
For sure. And I think that overlaps with a lot of the things that Jesse was discussing earlier too, about maintaining, building your employee systems with employee feedback and getting that continuous feedback loop.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but certainly plus 1,000 for voice of the employee. I think most gathered and least leveraged data set in a lot of senses. and using it before and after, right? Ongoing. I think the one thing that I would add on how do you measure ROI specific to EX is, did we save them time?
Yes, that was the other one. That's huge. Yeah.
Did we remove an hour a week from somebody just having to click around to find stuff, or a poor user interface? Like, so I think a lot of it comes back to time. If you have a CFO or a financially oriented discussion, I might answer that differently. But I think a lot of this does come down to, like, did we make your job a little easier and faster?
And I have one metric on that I didn't share earlier. The 2 integrations we did with Kronos and Workday, we ran some math on that based on an employee base of 80,000, and we saved employees 10 million clicks just from those 2 integrations. And that, if you add a dollar sign to that, it's a lot of time and money and frustration. I always go back to the frustration because that's just top of mind for me. If people are getting frustrated, they're less productive employees as well.
Yeah.
And less engaged. I might have peeked ahead to the Q&A.
Yeah.
So maybe I can kind of get us to, you'd mentioned you're working with more advanced AI and your Q&A and Gen AI. Like, how do you see the role of that in kind of your future forward-looking workplace?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I think we're at we're all at the very, very like early stages of envisioning what Gen AI can do for companies and in particular employee experience. I think that we've started, so on our search results page, we have added an Ask Me capability so that people, it's not at the top of the search results right now, it's off to the side on a different tab. As we pilot it, as we're going to keep watching how it continues to improve. But I think technology like that is going to be key for the employee experience. It's going to, if you imagine the ability it has to just cut down on as you keep saying, the friction. So instead of me having to figure out which site I have to go to take time off and then figure out through like 6 or 7 clicks where to go, what if I can say through voice, or what if I can type into Teams and say, hey, Kronos, I'm taking next week off, and Kronos can do it for me. Like, what if that could happen? I think there's so many what ifs here, and I love to play the what if game, but I think there's just so much, in addition to leveraging Gen AI as this kind of more conversational way to pull information. There's just a lot of opportunity there to improve efficiency and get things done faster and less frustrating way for employees.
Yeah. And to execute that's such a dream.
Yeah, I mean, Jesse, you probably have more ideas than I do right now of like how Gen AI can show up in the workplace, but just already thinking through these few use cases, I think that I feel I've always been search has been my passion for many, many years. The combination of search and Gen AI really are gonna, I feel like, become the backbone of the employee experience and revolutionize it in a way that we haven't seen in a long, in the many years I've been involved in this. So
it is one of those, we oftentimes talk about like employee experiences are driven by consumer expectations.
Mm-hmm.
You don't search the same way anymore.
Yeah.
Right. That's not how it's done. And whether that's pervasive yet or not, that is the expectation coming in. And so what is that going to mean? And why, and for me, why do I think search and generative AI pair nicely together? Search has a very well proven what type of content is going to be most relevant to the query technology set and algorithm. And generative AI, it has a very strong language interpretation and language creation sets of capabilities. And as all this, just not to do too technical, but as all of this is working out, right, we can leverage the strength of search and its ability to get to the right types of content, and then generative AI to get the right types of answers created. I think you'd mentioned we're all very early in that, right? And we're not, I mean, it's 18 months in, but we're still all very early in generative AI deployment and kind of realizing value. I think it presents such a good now value story, right? I think one of the problems that we have seen, which you fought very well against, is lots more technology. It's all more technology. And some of it is marketing ware, right? You can see a lot of that in your Gen AI sales demos. Some of it's just not connected to a need. And so it's more technology than it is user. But search and generative AI, they were best friends right at the beginning. And I think you can get a lot of value now in using those two together.
Yeah,
agree.
All right, so just taking a look at the time, I think we have a bit of time for questions from the audience. James, you want to join us and ask some of them on behalf of the audience?
Absolutely. We've got some interesting questions here. Here's one. What are some strategies to get leadership buy-in for AI projects when the organization might not feel it's fully ready for it? It's about leadership buy-in. Who wants to answer that?
I'm going to let Jesse go first.
Sure. Don't be afraid to talk about the impact to time and dollars. Right. But you can't sell. I suppose you can sell. You're not really getting buy-in by saying this is the most fanciest new thing. Look at it. It's amazing. Right. It's got to be measured in, we think we're going to gain some efficiencies here. We might have a cost avoidance here. We're going to make satisfaction and engagement better here, which we have retention. Just get to the user need and the impact on those roles as fast as possible. That's a more real conversation to get buy-in than newest whatever the thing is that will be old in a week and a half.
Yeah, people want data-backed decision making.
Yeah.
All right, James.
Let's see. Here's another one. I think the three of you talked about this a bit, but I think it's a great question. What are the primary value drivers for integrating AI in an organization? That's a big question.
Kirsten, you can start.
There's a lot there. I feel like
try to answer that. It's a really good question. Value drivers. I feel like so there's the productivity piece and the efficiency piece, but we also, as Comcast, pay very close attention to how our employees are feeling about their day-to-day, how they feel about the company, how they feel about their leadership, all of these things. And I think that as a value kind of also speaks to technology like this that can help continuously improve their day-to-day experience as well. That's where my head goes, right? When I'm asked for the real value of this technology in a workplace.
Yeah, and I think things like engagement and like employee effort scores too are sometimes hard to quantify, but still really important. I think we have another question here. I'll just go back. We have another quick question too. And Jesse, this might be a good question for you. How would you define employee engagement? What is an engaged employee?
I did glance that one as it came through. I also saw the AI answer to it, which I did. Mike there must have beat me to it because I went and asked Copilot what it thinks one is. I think engaged employees are, there's a satisfaction element that you can measure kind of like on ESATs or ENPSs on are they engaged. There's a buy-in to the organization and vision, like do I feel purpose? There's a productivity element. As you in some of your even reporting, somebody that's burned out and frustrated is not going to be engaged or productive right? So I think the relationship between an engaged employee is they're satisfied in their job and they're able to be productive in it. And they're able to be connected to their purpose of their organization, I think is the kind of bigger strategy. But I think it's really satisfied and productive. And I don't think they're two different things, as you heard me say earlier. But that's the simplest version I would go. I have heard things around discretionary effort and like willing to give above and beyond. You get that's a little difficult because you have different generational expectations of what work means, right? Are you fulfilled in the way that you want to be fulfilled as an employee? So it's not an easy answer, but I will try to give you one that I believe in. So it's not a consulting answer, but that's how I would answer it.
Yeah, I would add one more to that too. And like, do you feel proud to work for the company you work for? And I think part of that, the role kind of internal technology plays around that is people are coming in expecting that in like the experience internally from a technology perspective should feel as smooth and light and easy as it does in our day-to-day outside the company, right? And I think that can help drive like pride in a company. For Comcast, for example, like do the 20 somethings think it's a cool place to work and why? Like I think that can add to their experience as well.
For sure. And I think that's such a beautiful point actually to end off on, just taking a look at the timing now. So thank you, Kirsten and Jesse, so much for sharing your wonderful insights and expertise with us today. As we've learned, the journey to revolutionizing employee experience is complex, but can be incredibly rewarding with the right technology partners. Comcast's partnership with RightPoint and the implementation of Coveo really helps to illustrate the transformative power of collaborating with seasoned employee experience experts and using AI technologies to help enhance your digital workplace. Jesse, do you have any final thoughts before I promote some assets?
Just thank you for kind of coming out and inviting Kirsten as well. I think we're all kind of striving to have great employee experiences, and every little bit helps. So I hope we added some value to your day today for everybody that joined. And obviously we have some ways that we could help if anybody is interested.
Yeah, so we have some really exciting assets to promote that will hopefully help to inspire your digital employee experience strategy. And these include RightPoint's Knowledge, AI, and Search Guide, which will help you learn how to revolutionize information access, improve worker well-being, and boost customer satisfaction. And on June 26th, Simon Hassoun, who's the Senior Manager of Employee Systems at Coveo, and I will be hosting a workplace demo webinar together to show off some of Coveo's really wonderful workplace capabilities. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Again, huge thanks to Kirsten, huge thanks to Jesse. Thank you, James, too, for presenting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, audience.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye. Great stuff. Thank you.